Everybody, welcome back to another episode of the I Win Morning Show.
Good morning.
I'm super excited, as always, about our conversations. But I'm also realizing that this is a very busy month of activities and celebrations and all that jazz. So Dr. Dani, Tonya, Professor JBA are back for another episode of the I Win Morning Show.
Good morning.
All right, now we had to do our good mornings, our welcome intros. Now, of course, if you're watching this, I'm hoping that you are tagging in others to the morning show. We have a great conversation today. We get ready to start off with our segments, but again, we wanted to welcome everyone back. You can see our beautiful faces this morning. Now, I'm going to go ahead and kick off Jay's Corner just because I want to be very quick and get right into our affirmations and then get into the tea with Tonya. But guys, listen, I'm going to go ahead and start Jay's Corner.
Yes, come on through.
Because we had our annual...
Was there another Beyonce concert that I didn't know about?
Well, let me tell you, it was a concert this weekend because we had the Halloween Masquerade Ball, our annual event. It was our third one. Nice. And it was phenomenal, y'all. I was really, really impressed. I will say this, and I know that Dr. Dani and Tonya both know this in leading this type of work. This was the first year I was able to eat at the event. First year that I was able to eat at the event, and super excited about doing that. But I still have my beads, so I'm gonna put my beads on. We did a Mardi Gras theme, New Orleans style. It was super dope. For those who do not know, the Halloween Masquerade Ball supports the Lily's Foundation, celebrating and supporting grandparents, seniors, and aging guardians that raise school-aged children. So it was a great event. Hassan Green sung the house down with his band. It was really a good time. So if you could not make it, no worries, because you can still support us. Giving Tuesday is getting ready to come up. Guys, we'll be talking about that more in November. But we have something, y'all know we love to name something after someone. So we're doing Charlie's Angels for Giving Tuesday to get people to adopt a senior or a grandparent. And that's Jay's Corner. I'm super excited. Now, I also got a chance to meet Dolly Parton in Nashville this past week, working with NPU and at the Pi Conference. So you have to definitely stay tuned to those photos. But yeah, that's Jay's Corner today, just out in the world, living and doing. I will say this, guys, change of seasons. Make sure that you are getting out, you're doing some walking, you're doing some exercises. Those things are important. We need those. Make sure you're drinking your water, but then also you make sure you have your tea for when it's time for your tea with Tonya. All right, now that's it for Jay's Corner. I just wanted to do a quick recap of my weekend, what I'm doing in the world. I also would say make sure you pick up a book and read. Now, that's it for Jay's Corner. Dr. Dani.
Well, no, you got to explain a couple of things. First of all,
go ahead.
No, because you brought something up and then when you kind of like passed through it, but you said I ate. So talk a little bit more about the I ate part. And then most importantly, talk about Dolly Parton in person.
The food was amazing. Shout out to Miss Crawford and the Gerald Crawford Foundation. They did the food for us this year, and it was good. I was really excited to be able to sit down and eat. So major thank you to the board members, our volunteers that were helping. Beautiful venue. I think everyone had a great time. And it was super organized. So it allowed me to really be able to sit down and just enjoy and see the event. So it was really good. Dolly Parton, amazing. There's a conference convening that's in Nashville that kind of brings together all of the nonprofit, educational, social justice, family-based leaders, and it was really good. It was really good. Now, I will say this, since Dr. Dani just opened up this door. Guys, I want you to go to nationalparentsunion.org. If you are a parent, an ally, a stakeholder, you can go ahead and check us out and make sure you register for our upcoming literacy town hall. Boom. Boom. Okay.
Great plug in. Okay.
Thank you for that plug. Now, Dr. Dani, I'm passing the mic on over to you so you can bring Dr. Dani Speaks and the affirmation for us this morning.
Well, before we do that, I'm assuming you want us all to talk about our weekend since you just plugged in your whole weekend. So real quick, I'll just say I apologize for not being able to be at the Halloween event. I've been previously, and it is absolutely amazing. So I am sorry I missed it, but I missed it for a good cause. As y'all were making history, I was learning about history and took a road trip with my family to a little town called Crawfordsville, Georgia. And that is where the Stewarts were really created, the Stewart family. So we have a whole bunch of lineage there. It's off of I-20. They have a place called Stewart Town, and everything. So we got to get from my dad the history of Crawfordsville, Georgia. And it was amazing. I know you're big on history, Jason, and about telling stories and legacy. This was a trip that did all of that. And it wasn't far. It was just us making time, coordinating time to be able to do that, to learn and hear the stories. So good stuff. Really good stuff this weekend.
All right, Dr. Dani, I love that. I'm glad you shared about your weekend. Tonya is probably going to share about her weekend
when she comes
in the tea with Tonya. So we can go right into our morning affirmations, guys. And listen, if you're not connected to the I Wear Morning Show, we normally start off with something positive to keep you going, keep you motivated, get you exciting. Tonya, are you sharing your weekend?
Listen, I'm straight out of homecoming. I had to let my guest out. My bestie was leaving. I had to get her Uber. So y'all already know what it is. You hear this frog in my throat. So I'm straight out of CAU, baby. Good morning. And happy homecoming to those of you who have not yet experienced your homecoming. And God bless the rest of us that have. Now, today is when y'all should have had a guest for me. But I'm up. That's a sign that I'm up.
And you're present. And we're going to hear more about homecoming, I know, in the tea.
Yes.
Wow. I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Right. All right. We want to get Tonya an affirmation. Let me get Tonya an affirmation real quick.
All right, Dr. Dani, we'll turn it over to you.
Dr. Dani, let me put my head up here, honey. Put some healing hands on this baby.
Let's get that affirmation, girl.
Oh, help us. She may need a prayer and a revival service. Hey, revival does.
I can make it about you, though.
Listen, I don't need to repent, so it was a good weekend. I'm good.
But not repent, but maybe repeat.
I was gonna say, no. Is there a record? Somebody got a record.
Help us.
And come on with these, Dr. Dani. I need these affirmations on this good Monday morning.
Huh? Okay, Dr. Dani.
Let me rewrite this affirmation for you, hunty. All right, here is the affirmation for today. And it comes with questions for y'all to answer. How much are you carrying for others? And how much are you carrying for yourself? You are at the airport and it is time to check in your bags. Everything you're carrying right now cannot, I repeat, cannot fit on the plane to your next destination. Therefore, there is always a price. Remember, there's always a price for extra baggage. And remember, you should always pack lightly. That is the affirmation for today.
I love that, and it engages everybody. How much are you carrying? For others. I think it fits perfectly into what we're going to be talking about today. Dr. Dani always brings it, and listen, guys, I like to have a repeat as well. See, Tonya was trying to repent a little bit, and I'm trying to repeat. Dr. Dani, can you repeat that one more time, though?
Dr. Dani, he with the undertones, a bag lady. I see what you did there. Yeah.
All right, here we go. Rewind. How much are you carrying for others, and how much are you carrying for yourself?
Too much.
You are at the airport of life, and it's time to check in your bags. Everything you're carrying right now cannot fit on the plane to your next destination. There is always a price for extra baggage, so remember, pack lightly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Pack lightly, y'all. Pack lightly. Now, listen, if you're just tuning in, thank you. Shout out to everyone that's leaving comments, that are engaged. Go ahead and share this out. Text this out. Connect others to this conversation, because, the I Will Morning Show will always bringing you something, all right? Now, Dr. Dani just finished with Dr. Dani Speaks, the morning affirmation. Tonya, I got my teacup ready, baby, because it was homecoming this weekend. And so we're going to go right to the tea with Tonya.
Good morning. Listen, this is a wonderful season because it's a season for homecoming for so many. And one of the things that I wrote in a post that I posted of the weekend is there's something about the day of the tailgate and all the parties, day parties, the meetings, the supporting on campus all week, seeing various people get awards and people that you grew up with and went to school with, just reaching these high notes in their life, but also looking at people's kids, seeing real life kids there with their parents, watching, looking at them on their phones and us just sharing. But it's so nostalgic because it reminds so many of us of a time in our life that was just beautiful. We were young, we were innocent, we were vibrant, we were ready for the world, and we grew up with these people and we shared so much with people who enriched our lives. I saw teachers and my old professors. I saw so many old friends, and it was just so wonderful and exciting. I'm gonna get Ray. Ray said I got my sultry voice on. Ray, at least I can talk. Sometimes I can't even talk after homecoming, but it was just wonderful. I had a great time. We rocked it. My bestie came down, and we've been best friends since 17, right? We were girls. We went in as girls and came out as grown women. So it was a wonderful time. Seeing everybody, the weather. Atlanta, I want to say thank you to this Atlanta weather, honey. The weather was perfect. And the city was on pretty much good behavior as far as I can tell for the weekend. So, that the tea is, saw some old college sweethearts, a few old rivals, honey, but we had to let that die because, we too grown for that now. Caught up with everybody, see how everybody's doing, and just grateful to be in a number because we are missing some folks from even last year, that didn't make it. Historically, Black colleges and universities did not only educate us, they, as I would say, educated us. They taught us about different cultures and expanded our horizons on so many levels. So shout out. The T is, whether you went to a PWI or an HBCU or not college at all, we all have homecomings, right? Mm-hmm. In towns that our parents grew up in. It's called a family reunion with our own personal family. So shout out to the Black family, baby. Nobody does it like us. Oh, and I saw Roland Martin too. And Jackie Reed went to school with me, but I didn't get to see Jackie. She was there though. That's all
that tea. I love that. Yeah. And you know what? Ty, you made such a great point. It's homecoming season for churches, for PWIs, for your neighborhood associations. If you grew up in Atlanta, it's your high school homecoming too, because baby, we gonna show up. And the homecoming game for high school, if you gotta tiptoe in and just wave your hand, I gotta shout out the Astros because one of our alumni put together a very famous playlist. I'm saying famous because it ranked like number 7 on Apple Music. But if you go on there, it says Doug High Homecoming, and it's 43 songs from various artists that mention Doug High in there, and you will be shocked at the songs that are on there. You're like, wow, this is a mainstream song, and they're talking about Doug High, and they're talking about Douglas High School here in Atlanta, Georgia. So everybody was blasting their lists over the weekend and just throughout the homecoming season. And I'm so glad that Tonya, you highlighted those various areas of homecoming, and we go connect it back to the affirmation because you got to drop that baggage off. You got to those rivals, people you didn't agree with, like that's old baggage. Like just let it. Family members you had a disagreement with, y'all were cousins, and who had the longest hair, or who could run the fastest, or whose mama was the okay. Listen, y'all, we got past that. Like we gotta drop it, and we gotta keep it going. So listen. We brought you guys our special corners this morning with some amazing things, and we're gonna go ahead and it's 4 minutes after 7:30. I'm hoping people are traveling safely as they're driving to work or getting their classroom set up, or if you're in the hospital, because I know there were some nurses on last week. If you are at the hospital and listening to this, my hope and prayer is that somebody heard the affirmation, someone heard that, dang, they're talking about homecoming. I love that. That may have inspired them or given them something they need. They heard our laughter, and sometimes that's just good for the soul. So I'm thankful that people in different spaces are checking us out. Now, Tonya almost took me out when she mentioned homecoming, and there were people who were not there because their names were called on the roll and they didn't show up. And I talked about this a lot of times with students who are missing but who also are no longer with us, and we're calling their names on rolls, and they're no longer here. The last 3 years has been something, and y'all, today we're talking about 3 years after COVID and where we are as business professionals, where our families are, our mental health. Why aren't people returning back to work? Got some amazing stats from the Black Wall Street Times. Now, let me shout out Brother Nehemiah Frank, who has been a supporter of the foundation. He knows our board members. They're like, we need to get the Black Wall Street Times to be a sponsor of some of these amazing events. But I will say that would love to have the Black Wall Street Times become a sponsor of the I Win Morning Show to help us with some of our data, our stats, some of the amazing articles they are writing. Need people to lead some affinity groups and come in and do some parent workshops, and baby, we got all of that right here at the I Win Morning Show. But I have some stats from them just to kind of connect to the conversation, but I want to just open it up. Those who are listening definitely want to hear from you guys, but we're talking about 3 years after COVID. What has happened in the last 3 years? How are we making it through these things? And also too, why aren't we all coming back outside? Because there are still a lot of people who are not socially getting connected back to their churches, are choosing to work virtually and aren't really coming back to the workspace. They're not coming to social events or just really being connected to family. So yeah, we're talking about 3 years after COVID. And Dr. Dani and Tonya, I'm passing the mic to see what your thoughts are.
I have a question, especially since Tonya, you just came off of the homecoming adventure. I'm curious to know, because I do think that part of what folks are struggling with is the denial piece, where it's like, okay, we went from you couldn't avoid what happened 3 years ago to now all of a sudden people are in denial that 3 years ago even happened. And so I'm wondering, like, how do you balance that? Because it's not to say that we shouldn't move on, but it is to say we can't forget where we just came from. And so I wonder about homecomings or anything or any place, any event where people are not mindful that there's still people who are still struggling with overcoming what just happened 3 years ago. Like, we can't forget the loss. We can't forget that germs are still in existence. We can't forget COVID is still very much with us. So I think that the avoidance of even acknowledging, like, hey, wash your hands, or feel free to use a mask. There's a mask zone, or there's, still some sort of social distancing that can happen for those who are not comfortable. I just feel like those who are still in thinking like that are often looked at as those who are troublemakers or disruptors. So I just wondered, like, how homecoming even approached acknowledging, because there is no going back. When we talk about homecoming, we talk about going back, but that's part of our problem. We're going back to a place that no longer exists. There is no going back to normal. It's a new normal. So just curious about what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I would say, one, it's the new normal, but one of the things I learned inside of the pandemic is that normal looks different for all of us.
Right.
And so the new normal might have been some people's normal. I have a good friend that has probably worked from home probably the better part of the last 10 years and showed us that it could be done. But it also is a sign of a changing world. Last week, I had the opportunity to attend the Georgia Center for Nonprofits annual luncheon at WSB. And Robert Gulry you have to look him up. He's a tech guru. Talked about AI, but he talked about it in a way where I can understand it. And the reason I say that is because while we sat still, while the world stood still, the world kept going around us. And it is indicative of sometimes us as a people or people of color being in one space in our world, while the world at large continues to go. And so a lot of things were being tested and tried inside of that bubble that we were in. But I think for especially my peer group, my mother probably would have been quaking in her boots, honey, that I didn't have a mask on, hugging all them daggone people yesterday. And everybody hugged up, taking pictures. But that's just what it was for us and what we did. And I think people take precautions to be safe. I've been loading up on all the things that I took during COVID. I haven't stopped taking them. They are part of my regular regimen to keep my immune system strong, right? A detox before, definitely detoxing this week. But I think for my generation, we just kind of had to hold our breath and dive in. You close your nose and jump in the water and just go on in.
You better hold
And there are many people who didn't come, many people who are still in that space, many people who have anxiety. I did a couple of fist bumps and little handshakes and some high fives. But what it is a healthy respect for it. Because when you went in for a hug, high five, it wasn't I know she not. It was, hey, what's happening? So whether it was old boyfriends with wives, they was like, hey, what's up, my homie? No, I'm just kidding. But not really. But you respected people's boundaries. And I think that's the difference in the age group between millennials, not all millennials, but younger folks and us. I'm 56. We understand having boundaries and we understand respecting people's boundaries. So, and then I'll say I was a part of the Great Resignation. COVID gave me my life back while it took the lives from so many. Right. And we pray for them and honor them that they have gone on to be ancestors. But it allowed me to sit still and really do some introspection. And I came out of it saying, this will be my last full school year. And wow. I didn't even know how then, but I said it, I put it on my vision board, and I'm sitting here not being able to work from home 80% of the time because I made the decision that I didn't want to commute anymore. And that I didn't want to do what I didn't want to do. And I could work from home.
I'm glad that Dr. Dani opened the door with that question, because I am also curious, even if you're watching live, what has happened at your jobs? Are people still encouraging you to wash your hands, cover your mouth when you sneeze and cough? Do they have masks available? Is hand sanitizer available? And this is why I'm glad Dr. Dani brought this up, because with the National Parents Union, I travel often. And I can tell you right now that, yes, the airport is doing their job, but people still not washing their hands. I cannot tell you how many people go inside of the restroom and do not wash their hands still to this day, knowing what it has caused. People are on airplanes or in Ubers or in auditoriums sneezing and they don't cover their mouth. They're coughing and don't cover their mouth. Then let me tell you this. Age ain't nothing but a number now. Shout out to Aaliyah. Keep on resting, baby girl. But I want to say this. I ain't talking about children. I'm talking about adults who know better and ain't doing better. So I want to highlight that too and kind of ask you guys, what are you seeing in your workplaces? What are you seeing when you are in public spaces? Are we still, as a society, honoring the fact that, yes, people did die from a pandemic virus that was going around? And a big part of that spread was because, oh, God, I can't really say what I want to say, but people aren't clean. People aren't mindful. People aren't respectful. I'm curious about what people are going through.
I'm glad you said that because 'tis the season. We are right around the corner when everybody wants to be talking about Thanksgiving. And these potlucks get real popular in the workplace. Let me tell y'all something. Y'all, that needs to be banned altogether. Do not ask your coworkers to bring those little things that you can't identify, those little casseroles. Why don't y'all just order? Just save up, get a collection, just order. Y'all just do little Uber Eats, y'all, and you can put it in a pan where it looks homemade. But they just
don't even put it in a pan. I need to see you pull that fresh seal off of it, baby. I don't want
fresh.
No,
yeah. The only thing you bring from home is something to scoop it out with. Okay.
Again, we're from a certain generation, and your mom and I already said you go over to eat out in people's house. I don't let you. I banned a potluck about 30 years ago, baby. No, thank you.
Because you don't know what these science experiments are when people be bringing these things. But you never know, because they could bring in something that kills COVID-19. So
Let me tell you, I'm gonna do just what Monique did in Precious.
I don't want it. Get somebody else to do it.
Okay, laughter is good for the soul, y'all. But if you've never gone to a work, you've never gone to your work, your business, your community, because neighborhoods have these potlucks too, and you don't want to be upset with your neighbor. But I'm just saying, if you ain't never been to a potluck, then baby, God saved you. He gave you, that was grace. Just know that you had some grace. Yeah. I want to highlight this too. Y'all know we love some data, so everybody's going to highlight some things in the conversation. Wow. But 4.5 million jobs have been created, but less than half of Americans are entering these jobs. Now, shout out to the Black Wall Street Times, because we're talking about everyone. Even though, and let me say this too, because someone asked, it's people like, oh, well, where do white people go to get their news? Baby, everywhere. Just because it's the Black Wall Street Times does not mean that it does not have something for you. So let me just give you that disclaimer for those who are listening and viewing. Some of the areas, interestingly enough, fewer people are going back to jobs, yes, because of wages. Interesting enough, people are not going back to jobs because they don't offer childcare, and people are fearful of leaving their children at home, especially after what happened 3 years ago. And so think about parents that are having to go to work in the pandemic, and they may have lost a parent or a child because they were having to go in and out of the workforce because there was no other way for them to survive. So that was a huge thing. Inflation. I mean, I have voted Democratic, yes, but I'm looking at the Democrats like, baby, y'all got a lot of work to do. I'm glad y'all out here line dancing. That's great. I love that. Y'all line dance. Do it. Do whatever you want to do. But I need you to do your job. Democrats, do your job. I'm telling you, please do your job. Please do your job.
Baby, I voted.
They got to do their job, y'all. Seriously. You can vote Democratic, however you voting. But whoever we elect, they need to do their job. And if inflation is showing us that we got a lot of work to do. I also want to highlight the stress, health conditions of those who are in the workforce and their loved ones. Isolation cannot be overlooked, because isolation was number 4 on the list. People are like, yeah, I like working from home, but I'm the only person at home. And then 2 of my neighbors passed in the building I'm in, so I'm literally on the floor by myself all the time. I see no one except for the people that are dropping something off at my door, whether it's food or things I order from Amazon. So isolation is a huge thing. In the last area, caretakers. People are having to be caretakers for loved ones, for their kids, for others in their family, and just have opted out of going into these jobs. So just wanted to highlight a little bit of that data. Shout out again to the Black Wall Street Times and others who are sharing some data.
Well, you know, I'm so glad.
COVID is not left either. I'm sorry, but Kenneth was saying, he was talking about in the chat that, you know, COVID has not left. It's turned into something now. Like we say, oh, we talk about the flu, but COVID, there's a variant. It's still changing strains and things, and it is, to those who it was always more deadly to, it is still more deadly to them, right? So yeah, COVID does still exist. And we're not saying it doesn't exist. We're just saying we're managing it differently.
Can we go back to the numbers? You know, we're all about numbers.
Yeah.
4.5, that's a lot.
It's a lot, but it's important to understand that what COVID did for us and what life has done for us in the past 3 years, it's not just COVID, but what life has done for us is shifted our priorities. So what companies didn't do, they didn't prioritize us the way that they used to, right? Or the way that, you know, we're seeing priorities, they're not seeing. They haven't shifted their thinking. So I think even in that, you're talking about the children, you're talking about caregiving, you're talking about anxiety and loneliness. If companies aren't addressing those issues as they're creating job opportunities, then what you have is just another job. You don't have an opportunity, you have a job. And people aren't buying into it the way they used to, because they don't have to be that desperate. We've got so many other ways that we can be creative in creating jobs and generating income. So it's just, again, what you're selling that's a nice number. That's a nice size number. But what does that number really translate into?
Yes, I'm glad Dr. Dani said that. So 1.4 million fewer employers or employees aren't taking these jobs. And it causes us to ask these questions that Dr. Dani just highlighted. Well, what is being offered? I also have to say this. It reflects our lack of respect for women, because we have to be honest. Caretakers have traditionally been women. Those who have, you know, championed us to make sure we're taking care of ourselves mentally, physically, emotionally. Brothers, hello, brothers. If y'all say y'all love women so much, I need to not be the only person using my microphone to say women they don't need to be empowered. They already got power. They don't need to be affirmed. They are affirming very much what they're doing. They know what they're doing. They need to be supported. So we need people in positions to say, hey, my sister is a caretaker. My wife is a caretaker. My mother is a caretaker. My grandmother did this, and we need to make sure they have what they need so we can also thrive and keep. I think the pandemic showed us this, that billionaires are still going to be able to thrive and do what they need to do, whether they are white, black, green, man, woman, whatever, however you want to identify. So now what are we doing for the people? And I think that has been missing in this conversation when we think about childcare, when we think about common sense things such as being able to care for your families and care for others. That isn't just what women are doing. This is what humans are doing. So what are we doing to make sure that these resources are in place? So CEOs that just happen to be white men or happen to be men, because we know that there are a lot of men in the space, you see this data and hear this conversation. So we want you to do better.
Oh, Lord.
Tonya she ran off.
I didn't. I don't know what happened. The screen just went off. Sorry, guys.
We can see you though.
Can you see me?
Yep. We sure can.
Okay. I think it's the masses are railing against the patriarchy, honey. It's just what you said and more. And it's what Dr. Dani said. Yeah, we did start shifting our priorities, and we prioritize ourselves and our families. We realized, like I said, as we sat still, some folks realized they didn't like their families, unfortunately, but many of us realized what we've been missing, right? And that even though we were not alone, we were still isolated because we lived to work. We worked to live. We didn't live, You know what I'm saying? But I don't know how I said that, but all we were doing was working. And you're in the car commuting. You see your family at breakfast. You commute to work. You stay at work 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours. You commute back. You see your family for dinner, maybe, or do some kissing and hugging and 2 pages of homework. And then it's time to go to bed. That is not a life. That is not a life. So the masses realize what the 1% has already known and what they've been able to exercise. And once we felt that little bit of power, of taking our power back to be able to actually live, who wants to give that up? I don't. I took a significant pay cut to have my life back. What is it? Well, I'm going to buy more stuff, do more stuff, and then expire. Y'all can have the stuff. I want my life. I want to live. The first day I walked into my current position, the morning meeting consisted of yoga. I said,
oh, wow.
I know thank you for confirming that I made the right decision. I never did yoga on the first day at nobody's school and nobody's district office.
Yeah, it's always been about the hustle and not about the people.
And let me tell you, they're doing a poor job. I don't know about y'all in these job interviews, but they're not making it enticing for you to even say yes. I mean, it's like selling your soul to the devil, but the devil sure ain't doing a good job of selling like the opportunities. He's not. Not in these cases. Not enough for me to sign a check or sign my name to a job.
Listen, y'all, I'm glad Dr. Dani said that. So, Black Wall Street Times had an article that says instead of raising wages, the governor is paying $1,200 to the first 20,000 people who find a job. Now, I'm going to drop that article in the comment section because this is why this is important. Even though that was an incentive and it was 20,000 people, they had to increase the number of people because it was such a great need. And people were saying, well, if I take this, I'll come. But what else am I going to, are these things going to change? So interestingly enough, yes, we want the incentive, but are the restrooms, y'all, are the restrooms going to work? Are they clean? Do we have sanitary food? Do we have access to clean water? It sounds like these will be common sense things, but if you want me to come to work and we don't have these things, that $1,200 ain't gonna do nothing for my family if they have to bury me. If they have to put me in the hospital, if they have to care for me, that $1,200 incentive, educators or educational systems, that $5,000 bonus that you want to give to teachers and then come in and overwork them, that $5,000 is not going to take care of childcare after 2 months, especially if I have to go on FMLA because I am a special education teacher. I have no paraprofessional. I have no speech teacher. I have no occupational therapist. So I have to be all 3 of these people and work with a counselor who is overwhelmed and work with a social worker who is overwhelmed trying to serve hundreds of kids. And that's supposed to be my support, but I'm still taking on 3 other positions. So that incentive is so good, Dr. Dani, that you highlighted, because again, what am I going to get from this? What is my takeaway? And people are saying my life, my freedom, being able to spend time with those who I love, that's a bigger takeaway for me than an incentive. Mm-hmm.
And here you have it.
I want to ask you guys this. Another area, I saw some comments, and I know, shout out to Kenneth. He's a partner of National Parents Union, has a phenomenal organization, maybe some connection to those who are on the show and those who are viewing. But I want to highlight his organization right quick because they're bringing together men, fathers, others in the community to have conversations around mental health. Mm-hmm. And, you know, a lot of times we don't realize the urgency. There have been fathers who have lost kids. There have been men who have lost parents, who have lost siblings in the last 3 years. And also just the stress. I was able to talk to one of my former students who I almost said where they work, they are in public work. They do a public work service, and just talked about how a lot of people who are those who, you know, work for county or city authorities and don't get the resources that they need. Mm-hmm. They don't have childcare. So I'm having to work one job, or I might have another job and my child has to be in the front seat for hours. And we're thinking about it's getting cold and can I afford to keep the car on with the heat so my child is okay? Because I don't have childcare, and I don't have that in my community because the elders are no longer the elders, because now you have another generation that is becoming the elders, and their way of doing things may be differently. So I'm curious about mental health and support for those who are going through jobs that are not just stressful, but also the financial stress that is put on those in the workforce who are having to do 2 or 3 different things. So what are you guys' thoughts about that and the mental impact?
Ain't nobody gonna care about you more than you care about yourself, and many of us don't care about ourselves. So there you go.
Yeah, and then
you
Ray
better
said
preach that sermon.
You're gonna get a watch.
I kind of want you to repeat that, because
no
that is a big thing. That then just one more time. You got to repeat that one. That was a nugget.
That was from the heart, so I don't know if I can say it the same way, but I say nobody gonna care about you more than you care about yourself, and many of us don't even care about ourselves. So
yeah, you got it. That self-love.
Which is why we allow people to treat us the way that we were treated. That you have to. We also have to think about the buzzwords from COVID: self-care, self-check, check in with yourself,
health and wellness.
People were like, wait a minute, what does that look like? And then year 2, you better learn what it looked like to save your sanity. And so because you now learned yourself, you were like, it's like this song, we're not gonna take it. No, we're not gonna take it anymore.
We're not gonna take it anymore.
This was self-care. Self-care is preserving my mental wellness. Yeah, it's not a spa day. It is a lifestyle.
Amen. Say that again.
Self-care is not a spa day. It's a lifestyle. Now, if y'all say that out in the public and don't give it to me, that's good. Jason, we need JT. We need JT on that right now. Yeah, getting a manicure and a pedicure is not doing anything for me. I had somebody tell me, well, here, just go relax and do that. I said, that's not relaxing, honey. That's part of my upkeep. You relax. That's not relaxing. That's something I do. That's relaxing looks different to me, even going to the spa.
It's so funny you say that, Tonya, because a friend of mine, shout out to Dr. Cynthia Harper, who is an entrepreneur and her as well. But she just said that self-care isn't putting things on, it's taking things off. So stop making appointments to get your nails done or added, to get hair added. No. You need to be like somewhere quiet, relaxing, and taking things off. Don't even put on no makeup. Just, off.
Take it off. Take it off.
Everything, child. Nothing. Mm-hmm. Just be free.
Mm-hmm. Be free. But what? Oh, that may be a whole nother. That's another big conversation. Let me write that question down. You knew where I was going. I was like, well, what does that look like? I'm loving the comments though. I also want to. It's a 1 minute after 8:00. I'm very curious about those who are in the workforce around healthcare, which has also been tremendously seen a lot of inflation in healthcare and just the access. And there's a connection to the self-care piece to that, because a lot of people are like, I need to sit down on somebody's couch, or I need a life coach, or I need, someone to support me with my mental health. And they are definitely charging us for the resources that should be afforded to us. I'm very curious about what people are seeing with the access to mental health resources, so that people can actually take the time off or take advantage of the resources, or even utilize those who would help us with ensuring that we're being our best selves.
Kenneth said something. He said we need to, in the chat, he said we need to start prioritizing our mental wellness, mental health early in life, and not when something happens and making it like it's something we do when it becomes a problem, because then you stigmatize it. And then I want to ask you guys something, and I had mixed emotions about it, but Amanda Seals the other day, did anybody see on Instagram what she posted?
Mm-mm.
Now, I do follow Amanda Seals, but you have to tell me a little bit more about this one.
Yeah, it started out when she said, I am sick of y'all using, like people abusing mental health, right? everything. She said everything is not mental health, y'all. Because what you do is you start to normalize using a word, and then the people who actually have the situation
Yeah.
do not get what they need to get, because everything that you're just starting to use every excuse you say you're using as an excuse, right?
It's for your bad behavior. Don't use mental
for
health
bad
because you
behavior.
treat people
Yeah.
poorly. And
And I
want
had to
bully
really listen to
somebody
what she was saying, because at first I was
Yeah.
like, girl, hold on.
Yeah, that was a good conversation, and we may have to revisit that a little bit more, because a lot of people are using it. I mean, we see people doing it on social media, but just in and we know this to be true, people use whatever they can as their scapegoat. So, oh my God, I'm just mentally stressed out. So that's what caused you to be rude to somebody, because you're instead of doing the things that you would want someone to do to you, you in turn use your bad behavior as a weapon against others. And then you say, oh, well, I need self-care time, and it's mental health, and it's a part of, what I'm going through mentally. And I'm like, no, baby, you were just rude. Just say I was rude, and I could be better about not being rude, or I wasn't kind, because your mental health did not cause you not to open this door for someone, or to not, be polite to someone. We have to be very honest about these things,
Call them
because
an
there
N-word or something. Yeah,
and that does not. I also want to be very clear on my statement too. There are people who have disabilities that would, cause them to be socially awkward at times. We know those things. I'm not talking about. We know when people have bad behaviors. So let's just be honest about that. We know when people just aren't their best selves, and there is no therapy, there is no mental break that's happening that's causing them to be or do that. They're just choosing to do that, and they're using the mental health, that area to be their scapegoat.
I want to respond to that, because I get it, but I also think that there are certain groups that have been able to ride that train for so long. Complete insanity, mental breakdowns. And so I just believe that there are other groups who haven't said it enough, and it might sound redundant and repetitive because other groups have said it, and we're slowly trying to rise to that occasion. I feel like the Black community is a group that needs to say it more, even if it's not being used probably the appropriate way. We can't say it enough, because we need to get that in our vocabulary. We need to understand, first of all, that it's okay to say those words. Now let's figure out in context what that really means. What is, because some of us we just ain't got it all together. And that's not because of how we were born. That's just personality wise, so there are those types of areas too. But I think, again, we just don't say it enough, and we need to say it until it becomes, easy to roll off of our tongue. So we know that it's not the stigma that we all agree that, okay, well, we can't even go to therapy because we're not supposed to be mentally off. We just supposed to be crazy and savage, No. Mental health awareness. I think we all walking around here crazy, as far as I'm concerned.
After surviving a worldwide pandemic, I think
baby, you live in America.
You crazy. Again, you got a different level, and you know what? You still crazy. You gotta be
elected a president that was mentally unstable, baby. We are not okay.
We are not.
And mocked his mental health, y'all. But I'm just being honest. I could not stand that. I kept saying to myself, Trump has a clear mental. I'm a special education teacher, baby. I'm telling you what I see in my classroom. It's a clear mental disability. And I was disappointed in the Republican Party. I was disappointed in the Democrats. I was disappointed in America as a society that we utilize that. Like, I'm not taking away from his actions, because it's a lot of personality as well. But we knew what was happening, and people fueled that, and they took advantage of that. And then we really disrespected those who have mental ill, because now it's mocked. It's like, oh, it's funny, it's a joke. And that's what America does. America, we have a problem, because we have abused people, and then we have said, oh, well, this man has a mental illness, and now look at this. So when people do things of that nature, it's mocked, and it's funny, and that's the way that they're supposed to be this way, and so we're going to contain them in this area because this is what we think about mental health and mental illness. And we have to really, not taking up for any of the actions of Donald Trump. I'm making a clear point of how we all as Americans played a role in mocking his clear mental disability. And we just said, oh yeah, this is normal. And it's not normal to do that to anyone.
Well, some of us didn't, but some of us didn't have a choice. It's like being thrown in a van and driven off with all the rest of the hostages, baby. You don't, sometimes you don't. I feel like he held those of us who could say something hostage in the sense that it was like walking around in a dream. It was unbelievable. But I will also say, I remember talking to my oldest son, and he said, well, I did not even understand, even though you were like, we went to a therapist during a divorce or whatever, but that wasn't something other kids did. Not till he went to a PWI. He said, I realized that we get to talk at 13, 12. They go to therapy. That was key for me. Mm-hmm. We are busy giving our children the how to stay alive talk when they become teenagers. My Black sons. Meanwhile, his peers are getting a therapist to help them navigate puberty.
Wow. That's impactful.
That's deep. And you're right. It's like, again, until we get the level of compassion that other people get when we throw out those words, I say we need to keep saying we got some issues. Yeah. But I wanted to respond to what somebody said. I know we're past time, but someone had mentioned about the level of support and access we have to those types of resources. We've mentioned this in the last season, but just as a reminder, some things people aren't going to freely share with you, but I want to make you aware that there are a lot of providers, healthcare providers, that are addressing the issues of social determinants of health. And you might need to just ask the provider directly versus your HR department, or ask your HR department to look into it, because they themselves might not know, because maybe they are not in need themselves of that type of service. Yeah. But I know also, just in keeping confidentiality, it might be easier for you to just ask directly to the source, your Cignas, your United Healthcare, to just say, do you cover this type of service? Because often they will. And that addresses issues that might be faced, including microaggressions, as well as other determinants of health that really are directly related to race, class, gender. So just remember that. And if you call, you don't necessarily have to give them all of your information, because I know that's the question that people ask too. If I ask, will they report that to my job? I think there's some information you have access to, even if you were potentially just curious about a certain service. So I just wanted to remind you all, there are ways to access that resource. I'm hoping that'll help someone who's waiting for somebody to just say, here are all the resources you need, because you're not going to find that person.
I love that.
And Kenneth just said Headway is a good search engine for therapists. So thank you, Kenneth. And, echoing what Dr. Dani said also, many insurance companies are paying for it. And there's so many things that you can get money back for: massage, yoga, different things that different people count as, things that you're able to be reimbursed for.
Yeah. I love this, y'all. Listen, we are at the end of the show, but I do want to say this. We're always bringing something to the people. So if there is a health provider, somebody who's a specialist in health insurance that may want to join us on the show, and to get a little bit further into the conversation, we've had some good conversations around HR things, and people love that. So we can give you what we bring, but we also want to bring a specialist in that area to really help open up the conversation more. So if you guys are interested in that, y'all know how to reach us on the I Win Morning Show. Look up Tonya Winters Buford. We look up Dr. Dani Speaks, Dr. Danielle Stewart, and some of the amazing work that each of us are doing to connect off of the show. But I want to go right into our final thoughts. 3 years after COVID, we're closing out our conversation, and Dr. Dani, Tonya, let's leave the people with a final word.
Final word: rest is restorative. That's another thing we don't do a lot of times as a people. Get your rest, get your sleep.
Rest. Now, don't rest beyond the Savior. Now, don't rest beyond the. Please don't.
You
But just
always
get
got
some
to
rest.
take it to church.
I know. I just because those songs be in your head, and I just be like, they gonna rest beyond the. No, don't do that rest. We want you to get some rest.
The rest is restorative. It is revolutionary. We must stop. Yeah.
That's good. I love that.
Hey, JD. JD said mental health should be a component supporting the individual, especially with those companies.
Now, Jamal, don't come on here preaching at the end with this now. Don't you do this to us now. Go ahead, Dr. Dani, with your final words. I left the DEI comment up there strategically because you are all things DEI, baby.
I would say grace, and with grace, being gentle with others but yourself. Mm-hmm. And I do think that that's a great way to start because, again, we've got so much baggage going back to the affirmation and understanding like you have to monitor how much grace you give yourself. And it really should be more than what you're giving others.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Dr. Dani, y'all better be trying to preach to the people towards the end. I would just say, guys, my final words would be to live, to laugh, and to love. Time is shorter than what we think, and you got to enjoy those things. So, yes, those are my final words. Now, I've got to say this. I want to go to this comment right at the end. DEI initiatives, a lot of these things have been elevating mental health, self-care. A lot of these areas are also under attack. That may be another show where we talk more about that. Yeah. But I also wanted to acknowledge that because I got a couple of hits from people who were asking about the connection to mental health and DEI. And if y'all don't know that we have the expert of this area and how we're leading affinity groups around this space, y'all already know Dr. Dani knows. That's why Dr. Dani speaks. All right. So we will definitely be having, she know, baby, and she going to bring you the real on that. So we're going to be having more conversations about this, guys, with this 8:15. We love y'all. We can look forward to seeing you next week. Next week on the I Win Morning Show. But until then, guys.
Have a winning week, guys.
Yay!
Peace to love, everybody. And Wakanda is forever.